So, hey, where's Grace? Grace, can you come here for a second? So you, what's up? Nice seeing you. Hey, so you, come over here. So you, Grace, the reason I invited you up is because all semester long I want to talk a little bit about the global dialogues, and you had a global dialogue a couple weeks ago, right? That was particularly, I think it's this one right here. That's you, right there.
Yeah.
Who were you talking to?
We were talking to students in Najaf, Iraq.
Uh-huh. And what made it, you were really exuberant that day. Like, what made it so interesting for you? You said greatest experience ever, by the way.
Yeah, it was one of the coolest things I've done, I would say, in my whole life. So, yeah, initially I went and...
Wait, hang on. I'm going to cut you off one more time.
Okay.
In your whole life?
I did, yeah.
All right, cool.
I was, on a high the rest of the day, so...
Okay, cool.
That's
awesome, by the way. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so initially I went to the dialogue, and I was kind of nervous. I didn't know what to expect. I got to the room, and I saw the TV screen, and yeah, I was just like, I don't want to say anything wrong, or what if I ask a question and they think I'm weird, or they don't understand me. But I kind of watched how the facilitators would ask the students on the screen questions, and how they would listen really carefully to what the Iraqi students were saying, and then they'd pull a piece of something they said and ask them a follow-up question on that. So I just tried to imitate them, and one of the things, I think, is the guy's name JP?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. One of the things JP said to us in class towards the beginning, JD, okay, yeah. JD, was try to use their names when you're talking to them, which felt a little bit weird initially, but it makes such a huge difference. So if you can just kind of listen to whoever's speaking, and there's name cards on the screen, right? So you can just say Zara, I heard you say this, can you tell me more about that? Or just kind of refer to their names. And then if you do that, they'll start doing it back to you. So one of them was oh, Grace, tell me more about this thing. And it's so cool. And it feels so much more personal. And you can feel really connected to them that way. So
you felt you made friends, right? You made friends. I mean, you said you were FaceTiming? Or?
Yeah, it was a really cool group of people, and I was able to exchange contact information, and we've been texting and FaceTiming ever since the dialogue.
So one of the reasons I was struck by what you were saying is because I too am, and in many ways we're all learning about the power of these connections back and forth, whether it's domestic dialogues or global dialogues through video. And we're all learners here. We're all students. And so I'm always struck by the kinds of things that students get out of this. Because for me, I forget. I've been kind of meeting people from different parts of the world and different cultures for so many years that I forget the power of that initial connection and what it means. So, yeah, it's very cool that you had that. And what time was it, by the way? What time's your dialogue start?
My dialogue was at 10 a.m.
10 a.m. Cool. Did you know? Oh, you were awake at 10 a.m. more so than at 6:50.
Yeah.
But other people were
fine.
sleepy in the group?
Yeah, it was low energy at first, but we kind of
What'd
we
that
got
do to
into
the
it.
dialogue?
What, the low energy?
Yeah.
It was a little bit awkward. The body language is really important. So if your arms are crossed or you're on your phone or not looking at the screen, they can tell.
Okay, so final thing. Give advice to the students who show up to dialogues and they're still sleepy. Just give a quick piece of advice. If you want to ensure that you have a really good dialogue.
I would say even if you're feeling tired, do your best to fight through it and get excited, because who knows when you'll have this chance to talk with these people, like your peers in a different country, ever again. Like,
Cool.
This is your chance.
Cool. Thanks, man. You rock. Yeah, very cool. Hey, okay. All right. Hey, we actually have sorry about that. We actually have a really a special, really cool, very special class today. So we're just setting it up. But before we get to that segment, no, no. Okay. So before we get to that. Sorry, we just had sometimes up here, technology is fickle, so we lost the stream. We're just dealing with some technology issues, so we'll work it out. It's all good. I want to say a few things about Iraq. I want to just take about 15 minutes to say some things, because not only are we, again, we're having conversations, y'all are having conversations with Afghanistan, with Colombia, with Iraq. We're going to pilot a couple other places, but right now those are the three main countries. And I realize we haven't discussed Iraq, and I want to just say how and why Iraq matters, because most of you, Iraq is it's a place that most of you have heard about, but you don't necessarily have any idea what's going on. If you don't have family in the military, or if you yourself weren't deployed or have been in the military, you don't really know. It's just a place. And I want to kind of bring it to life a little bit for us. So first off, it's big. In 1991, we invaded Iraq because the Iraqis invaded Kuwait. And Iraq, up to that point in time, had been an ally of ours. In this world of allies and enemies, an enemy can be an ally and an enemy at the same time, and they can switch. And allies, the people on our team aren't necessarily the nice people. They're just the people that we decide we want to have on our team. And that's kind of the way life is. And when it comes to power and wealth and so on, right? So if any of you are living with this idea that the United States stands for democracy and freedom and so on all around the world, you can say that to yourselves because you haven't studied probably very much history. Because if you do, you see that there's really, just as often, we stand for the opposite of that. But nonetheless, we invaded Iraq in 91 to kick the Iraqis out of Kuwait. And then we had 11 years of sanctions, and like really serious crippling sanctions, where we had embargoes on all sorts of goods coming into and out of Iraq because we were just trying to strangle the government of Iraq. And then we invaded in 2003. And this is probably many of you were just little kids, if anything, right? In 2003, most of you. And so we invaded fundamentally for oil. And it since that time, I said it was for oil back in 2003, but since that time, many of you, it's now just come out and it's accepted. And it's one of these things where suddenly you just accept that something is true. I hear this Donald Trump is really good at this. He has discovered the idea that why do I don't have to lie. I don't have to just tell people exactly what I'm doing. And so he does, and then he's honest about it. And then it's okay, well, he's honest, right? And so somehow it just passes over. Well, now it's very clear that we invaded Iraq to get access to the oil. And the result of that has been the death of about 4,500 American troops and wounding of almost 40,000, And that's just the physical wounding. We're not talking about the mental and psychological wounds that have happened as a result of that. And close to 1 million Iraqis died. And hang on, let me just say this for a second. In 2003, so everyone listen to me. Just don't sign the attendance sheet for a second. Listen to me really fast. Hold on the attendance sheets just for a hot second. In 2003, the American government organized in order to invade a sovereign nation in order to get access to their natural resource, oil. And the people in the American government fundamentally now, it has come out, lied to the American people blatantly and openly about the reasons for invading that sovereign nation. And that sovereign nation was Iraq, ruled by a dictator, but nonetheless a sovereign nation, in order fundamentally and principally to get access to their oil, their natural resource. So I want you to just think about that, if you're an American, that our nation invaded a nation on the other side of the world to take their oil underneath the ground of their nation. Their oil, not our oil, their oil. And there were all sorts of reasons for this, like, well, we need this, we need it for the United States, we need it for our country, we need whatever, but it's their oil. It is not our oil. And so that's the invasion. As a result of that, this isn't about Democrats, it's not about liberals, it's not about Republicans, it's not about liberals, it's not about conservatives. This isn't anti-military, it's not pro-military, it's none of that. It's just is common now understood fact about what was behind the invasion of a sovereign nation. So hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars being spent to invade a nation which cost the lives of many, many people. And so think about the Americans who died, but now think about the Iraqis. So just hold that. Close to 1 million Iraqis lost their lives because we wanted access to that liquid crude that we use to make the fuel that fuels our cars and our energy and so on. Okay? So what I want to do is I want to walk you through how to think about this. And hey, by the way, the reason I think it matters is because when you talk to people in Iraq, you're talking to the children of the people who directly went through this and continue to go through it. The people you're speaking with, all their lives, what they've known is war. War that was started because of decisions that our government made. And you can say, yeah, it's not my government, I don't support the government. No, do you pay taxes? Do you benefit? Are you here at Penn State? This is about the government. So if you're here, you support the American government, and the American government supports you. So we're all part of this. You can't, but these are the people you're talking to. And this is why it's big. There's nobody you're talking to on that screen that has not been affected in some serious way by the wars that the United States engaged in Iraq. They either lost family members, they've had family members disappear, they've had family members who were wounded. They've had somehow, or friends, neighbors, communities, somehow everybody has been affected. There's not a single person in Iraq who has not been affected by these wars. So the children of these wars are coming together. And that's you all, if you're an American, or if you're from a country that's part of the coalition, and the children of the Iraqis. And that's pretty, or anywhere in the Middle East, but the Iraqis, okay? Cool? Dude, that's powerful, my friends. That's big. So I'm going to show you something. I'm going to do this pretty quickly. So in 2010, 10 years ago, I gave a talk. And it was called a radical experiment in empathy. And it was a TED Talk. And shortly after the talk went online, it started going viral in the Middle East. And different people saying like, whoa, this is pretty intense. It was very risky. It was a very edgy talk. You can watch it on your own time. It's fine. But let me tell you how I started the talk. The way I started it is to say, look, I got to get Americans to understand what it would be to be in Iraq, having gone through these wars and experienced this kind of violence. And so what I did was I created a scenario. And what I said, imagine if China came to the United States and invaded the United States 70 or 100 years ago in search of coal, because we had coal and they needed coal. This is just a role play scenario. So imagine that. And the Chinese came and they got access to our coal. So Chinese students, you also can do this scenario from the other perspective, but it could be from any country. So the profits from that coal went back to China, and China built big cities, fabulous cities, built the most industrialized, wealthiest country on earth, largely from the profits of that coal that came from the United States. This is a thought experiment. So everyone here, imagine right now we're living in this, that this happened, and we're here and say, okay. And then imagine that here in the United States, when we look around, we see poverty, we see unemployment, we see people barely getting on. Because the profits from the coal have gone back to China. And China's got really, really rich and built an empire, a global, world-dominating empire, and we are poor. And what the Chinese did was they collaborated with certain Americans who could enrich themselves from the sale of the coal. The Americans who invited the Chinese in said, hey, we'll sell you our coal, we'll work with you. And those Americans protected the Chinese, they signed off agreements to the Chinese, and they allowed the Chinese to send the coal back to China as long as these Americans got rich and did really well. And they were the corrupt leaders. All is good. So there's a group of Americans that are going to be fabulously wealthy, but the vast majority are really just hanging on because this really important resource is going back to China. And these corrupt Americans even conscript American troops to fight on behalf of China. So they have a flag, the troops do, and they have the red star, because they're really working for China to ensure that Chinese sovereignty and the ability to get the coal to send back to China. And then we start seeing things like this, because all around we see Chinese lettering and Chinese characters, and you go to school and there's a map in the school and it's in English, but it's also in Mandarin. Because you just see China everywhere. It's China, 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 because for 70, 80, 100 years, it's been nothing but Chinese being part of this country, taking the coal and taking it back and getting rich. And back in China, we see all these photos of Chinese young people, and they're all happy, and they're doing really well, and they're wealthy, and they're feeling good. And, so we get these photos, and you kind of maybe want to be like them because, whoa, these are really happening people. And remember, Chinese students, this is a thought experiment. You got it? It's not true. It's a... What's that? Yeah, I know. I got to update the image. Yeah, it's old school. Dude, China has changed a lot in 10 years. These are the images I used in the talk, all right? Okay, we're all good. And then the Americans decide, hey, whoa, hang on. Some of you, like Emily, for example, with her guns, and the rest of you just say, hey, nah, we're not taking this anymore. We're going to fight back. We're going after the Chinese. You can't take our coal. We're done with this exploitation. We're going to fight back. We're going to kick you out. And so you start bombing things. And then the Chinese start sending in more and more tanks. It's just shipload after shipload and airplane after airplane of tanks, and they're shipping them across the country to wherever the insurgencies are operating, meaning you, all of you, wherever you are mobilizing against the Chinese, wherever you're mobilizing, you start fighting because you're now guerrilla warriors. The Chinese step in and they say, nah, we're going to take you down, my friends. And they send troops. And then you go out, imagine College Avenue. Imagine this truck full of Chinese troops is driving down College Avenue because a couple of Penn State students set a bomb. They lit off some bombs, fighting the Chinese. Why are they fighting the Chinese? Because the Chinese are stealing our oil. So we're going after them. And a couple of you, radical terrorists, you do that, and they're sending troops. And then when you come out of class here in Thomas Building, that's what you see going down Shortridge. Chinese troops. Are you there? And so the question becomes, it's oil. It's always about oil. You know they're here for oil. It's your oil. It's not theirs. It's very clear. Now, go back to this slide. I want to know, here's my question for you. Just for the Americans, how many of you would not be part of the insurgency fighting against the Chinese who are here taking our oil? How many of you would not support them? Either pick up a gun to go after them, or because you support peace, I'm a pacifist, I don't do that under any conditions. How many of you? So the question becomes, how many of you, because you're just pacifists or who knows what, how many of us would not support the insurgency against China if this were actually the story that happened? One pacifist, a couple pacifists here, another one here, a few here. The vast majority, though, you're not raising your hands. So now, when you think about all this violence in Iraq, and you think about people fighting back against the Americans, who now very clearly have been in Iraq to take the oil. And that's not saying the soldiers are, that's the reason the soldiers are there. The soldiers are there because you take an oath to the Constitution. And once you take an oath to the Constitution, you take an oath to your country, and wherever your president sends you is where you go. You don't say no. You don't say, I'm not going to Iraq because that's an illegal war, or I'm not going here, I'm not going there. You go. So that's not why soldiers went at all, but it's why the U.S. is there. And so now what we're doing is we're talking and having conversations with Iraqis who experience this very same thing. So all you have to do is imagine what it would be like if that happened here. And if it happened here, like, whoa, how would I be? I could imagine that. And we often don't think about the Iraq War in that way. So it was a radical experiment because then I continued on with the talk to really paint the picture of somebody who might be an insurgent and why it is that they might be fighting against the Americans. And that's actually kind of radical. But strangely enough, the greatest support that I got from this talk, the most support that I got, was not from the liberal left, but it was actually from Americans in the military who said, you know what? Especially people who had spent time in Iraq, who say, you know what? Exactly what you said in the talk is exactly what everybody else would say. That's what people said. So we got it. Yeah, I get it. Which is ironic. Okay, so now you're going to be in these dialogues with Iraqi students, right? It's not that they think this. I've traveled all over the Middle East, my friends. I've never met anybody who supported terrorism or the insurgency. I've talked to young people, middle-aged people, old people. I've never met a single radical Muslim anywhere that supported insurgency and terrorism. I've only met people that support peace. But I've always understood if they did. I've always tried to understand, well, okay, well, here maybe it would be. So, keep this in mind when you're showing up at these dialogues, because it's a really, really awesome opportunity. Okay. Hey, so here we go. We're going to have a conversation with some people, with somebody in Wuhan and somebody in a city right near Wuhan. And hang on a second. Hang on. We're coming, in Social 19, we are coming live from Wuhan, the epicenter of this virus that is considered to be really from one of the most serious global pandemics that we've had, ever. You ever wonder what people are thinking in Wuhan? Remember we talked about it a few weeks ago? And so I asked who do we know from Wuhan, who knows somebody, and we get to have a conversation. And is that not awesome? Let's find out. So, are we ready? Are we on this camera? No, we're on this phone. By the way, can you? Hang on. This is Zheng, by the way. We are first going to have a conversation with. Oh, here we are. Are we good? Okay, listen.
Press speakerphone so their audio come out here, hopefully.
Wait, what am I doing?
Can we hear them?
Yo, can you, both of you talk? But, hey, wait, by the way. So we are in, can you pronounce his name, my friend?
Yang Xiaoqiang.
Yang Xiaoqiang and Zijun.
You can call me Jerome.
Jerome and Jacqueline. Hey, here's the class. Wait. Hang on. Wait, hang on. There we are, my bad. Hey, thanks everybody. Welcome to Social 19. Hey, can we give a round of applause really fast? You know why? Especially because it's 4:30 in the morning. And Jacqueline, hey, when were you a student in Social 19? Last spring, right? Wait.
And you'll have to hold a mic.
Okay, hang on. There we go. All right, go ahead. Say that again, please.
Hi, so I last year in spring, just like you guys sitting there, taking this class, yeah.
Hey, and where were you sitting? Where did you sit? Just so we know.
In the middle front, the middle front.
Oh, dude. Hang on. Dude, can you hold on a second? Dude, you're going to hold the camera for me. Yeah, can you? Yep. Yeah. So, say your name again for the class.
Hello, my name is Jen.
And where are you from?
I'm from China, Jiangsu Nantong. It's Jiangsu province.
Yep. And where is that in relation to
Wuhan.
Wuhan? Yeah.
It's quite like a 2 hours flight, to Wuhan.
Okay. All right. So your job is just to keep the camera steady and hold that.
Sure.
So you're a student in this class. You're a freshman.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So Jacqueline, let's start with you. So, and where are you living?
Me?
Yes.
I'm in Zhengzhou. It's kind of like from Pittsburgh to New York, the distance.
Uh-huh. And Jerome, you are in Wuhan.
Yeah, I can hear you, but I cannot hear you very clearly
So
because of
you are
probably the echo from your.
yeah. So you are in Wuhan right
Yeah,
now.
I'm in Wuhan.
Yeah.
I'm in Wuhan. Yeah.
Hey, so tell us. Let's talk about Wuhan right now. Like, tell us a little bit about what's happening on the streets. Just what's happening in general. I'll let you start anywhere.
Today,
Yep. So
the city, the city has been closed, and and traffic lines to and from Wuhan, were cut off ever since the day the city was closed, and it is said the traffic lines to and from Wuhan will be reopened at the end of next month, but it is not confirmed by the government. Okay.
So-
and we are not allowed to go outside.
So when you say the city is closed, you mean that nobody is coming in and coming out?
Yeah, right.
How are you getting goods like food and services and things?
Previously, we could go outside to supermarkets to purchase the food. But ever since yesterday, and in the fall, and in the coming days, but now without a permit, we just cannot go outside. And if we run out of food, and we place order, and the government will deliver the food to a designated place in the neighborhood, and we go to
Wait, so
pick them up.
is he saying they're running out of food?
Yeah, so from what I know, it's like cities like Wuhan, which has been severely impacted. So every community will get closed, but there will somebody will deliver food, and also they will deliver food to the door, to of every families.
So Jerome, who is delivering the food? Is that the government that does that?
Yeah, government. The government is organizing the delivery of the food.
So when is the last time you left your home?
For me, it is more convenient for me to. It is more convenient to go out because I'm living on campus, on university campus. Most faculties and students are not native Wuhanese, and so ever since the holiday, most people, faculties and students have left for their hometown.
So
I could go out, okay? I could go out, but the stores and the supermarkets on campus have been also closed.
So what are people doing who live far away from supermarkets and places, stores? And... So you're telling, hang on.
Can you say that again?
Yeah, so you're telling me that so people come and they deliver food to doors. And even in big...
No, actually not 2 doors. Not 2 doors, okay?
Yeah.
I just place order online, and the government will deliver the food at the designated place. I go to pick them up.
Okay. So where are people picking up the food again? Well, actually, I'm going to ask a different question. What is it like? What is it like for you to go on the streets and have the streets be really empty? How is that?
Today, now in the following days, we without a permit. Now, if you want to go outside to the streets, you have to obtain a permit issued by government. Without a permit, you cannot. Okay? Otherwise, you are going to be, questioned and probably taken away by policemen. Because government is taking very strong measures to track down all those people who are suspected to have contracted the virus or who have been in close contact with a person who's diagnosed with the certain pneumonia.
So what you just said there is really interesting to me, because the government has a responsibility to find the people who have contracted the virus. And maybe they don't want to go to the hospital, but the government is responsible for the people. And so the government has to find people who don't want to go to be in quarantine, but they need to be in quarantine. So I find that to be really just fascinating for me as a human being, because that's the responsibility. So class, just imagine this, right? So think about this for a second. I'm just going to talk to the class. Think about how many of us get sick with a cold or a flu, and we go to class. We don't want to stay inside, and we don't want to be quarantined. But imagine that we have a sickness or an illness that's actually super deadly, and we still don't think that we have it, or we're in denial, or we don't want to go where we need to go. And so somebody has to come and force us to actually go into some kind of quarantine, like in a hospital. But imagine if that was your mother or your brother or your husband or your wife or your father or your grandmother, and they don't want to go into quarantine, but they have to, because if they don't, they could infect dozens or hundreds of people. And so this is what's happening. So what I hear is this in part is what's happening in China, that the government actually has a responsibility to find those people. And then it's this real struggle, because none of us would want to do that. We would, yeah. Hey, Jacqueline, what would you add to this? What do you want to tell Social 19 you think that we should know?
Because in my city, it's kind of better, a little bit better. People can go outside, they can go to grocery stores, or they can just buy stuff online so people can deliver it to you. So it's kind of a little bit better than Wuhan situation. But still, there's a lot of tests got canceled, because I was going to apply for grad school this year, so I need to take the GRE test, but all the tests were canceled in February and now in March as well. So that's pretty tough for me too. Yep.
Hey, let me ask you this, given that, what do people in your city think about the people in Wuhan?
City. I feel like people just in our country, we just help people in Wuhan, to help them with food supplies and everything. We are not really against anything. We just want to helping them out, also give them support. Yep.
Do you think? How many people think? Not you, but people you've spoken with. How many people feel like the Chinese government is overreacting?
Oh, what's that?
How many? Not you, okay, but how many people that you've spoken with feel like the Chinese government is maybe overreacting, or, yeah?
I mean, if you are more closer to the city of Wuhan, you are more actually related to the situation, because I have friends from all over the country. If they are from far away from Wuhan, maybe they might feel like all the overwhelmed information is kind of like from social media. But if you are more closer to that city, it's kind of like more real.
So people are afraid. It sounds like many people are afraid to go close to Wuhan.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. And how afraid are you? Just you, being there right now.
For me, it's kind of like, so I've been at my place. I'm at home for more than 3 weeks. I never went outside. I actually flew back from Los Angeles on the day, actually one day before Chinese New Year. And I think Wuhan got locked down one day before my flight. So I didn't realize how serious it was until I couldn't buy any masks in Los Angeles. That's the time I realized, oh, the situation is really serious. And now I just never go outside in general. Like my parents told me not to, the media told me not to, so I'm just staying.
I think that's one of the things, one of the reasons that for me, I think it's good to have this conversation is because, if we don't really hear directly about things like this, we sometimes don't understand how serious they are or can be. And do you know anyone who is sick? Who caught the? Do you yourself know anyone who has contracted the virus?
No, I don't.
Yeah. Hey, can we go, Jerome? Let's go back to Wuhan. Let me ask you, how afraid are you?
On my part, I feel it is okay. I just remain in my apartment. I stay put in my apartment. Now, actually, before the outbreak of the pneumonia, the sudden pneumonia, most of my time, I just stay inside. I do not go out often.
Yeah. How many?
And,
how many people how many people do you live with? How many people are in your apartment?
3, including me.
Yeah. Hey, so do you know anybody who has gotten sick with the virus?
I was told some of my colleagues they were taken to hospital or contracted the pneumonia, but no direct I was told that how many people diagnosed with the pneumonia, but actually I don't know them.
Wait, say that one more time. Did you hear what he said?
Yeah.
What did he say?
He said he was told how many people was actually diagnosed.
Yeah.
But may you say that again?
Can you say that one more time? Say it to him in Chinese.
你能再说一遍吗？
Yeah. No, how many people were diagnosed with the sudden. I'm speaking. Every day I was told. I was told of the people who was diagnosed with the sudden pneumonia, but I know the number, but I don't know who
So I have another question. How do you...
Actually, so, on university campus, on university campus, very few people contracted the virus.
Yeah. Wait. Hey, Jerome, another question. Hey, Jeff, he's hearing me through this mic, so I have to be close. Okay. How do you think this is going to impact Wuhan or China in the long term? What is the long-term impact? Given what you see right now, what do you imagine?
I imagine it's going to be okay in 1 month because the government is trying to, as I said, the government is trying to trace all people suspected and place them in quarantine. And it is at the end of next month, the situation will be okay. The situation will be, much better, and the traffic lines will be reopened.
So
and the government is determined to trace all people suspected and take them to hospitals.
For me, it sounds like you're very optimistic. For me, I have to say that as a sociologist, now I'm going to speak to my class for a second. But I'll stand next to you so they can hear me. So for me, as a sociologist, when I think about this situation with the pandemic, it's really good if the pandemic hits a society with a really strong government. Because a society with a weak government, by the time the government actually got around to solving the issue, the pandemic would be so widespread that nothing would happen. Here in the United States, what would happen is the Democrats and the Republicans would argue about it for 3 months. And by that time, the whole thing would have spread all over the world, and we'd still be arguing about it and blaming it on Trump probably. But, or Obama, one or the other. And so it really, for me, I feel like it's really good that the Chinese government is very strong and is reacting in a strong way, because a lot of times I think that many of us don't understand what the power of a pandemic like this is, and it's really striking. Jacqueline, do you have any final thoughts? Anything what Jacqueline, I'm going to ask you this. So think about Penn State students and think about people who are here and have never been to China. What is impossible? What is impossible for us to understand? Did you get that? Does that make sense? Wait, hang on. Wait, she got it?
I cannot do that here yet.
Okay, so here, I'm going to say it again. So think about being a Penn State student, okay? And what do you think is impossible for us to understand, people in this class, about this?
I would say this kind of thing may be it might happen to every country, because everywhere, like, Australia or whatever countries is happening some kind of natural research and just crisis. Like, until the day I flew back, I didn't realize how serious it was. So I think everyone should be aware of our environment in general and just be conscious with the virus situation.
Cool. Thanks. And Professor, So I'm here, but I'm going to stand next to the microphone. I'm at the mic. I want to ask you the same question. What do you think is really important for us, for Americans? I'm going to say Americans, even though there are students here from all over the world. But what do you think is important for us to understand?
Be alert. I think it's important to be alert. Okay, when you feel that your life, your health will be probably compromised, and when the danger arrives, when you are faced with danger, okay, appreciate your cooperation and concern and help offered by people from your community and from other communities.
Cool. That's very cool. So it's that the idea is that we're all connected, really. That we should be alert and aware, and everyone should be alert and aware. Yeah. Yeah, thanks. Hey, thank you. Just thanks for coming in, and I appreciate it. And it's early. Yeah. Can you say thank you and
Thank you.
no, say it in your phone.
谢谢。
Say,
My pleasure.
yeah, tell them I really appreciate
My
it.
pleasure.
In Chinese.
Dr. Sam 非常感谢你们的
Wait, hang on. We need them. Come here, Frost. Tell them they have to meet Frost.
So here's 这儿有一个中国来的朋友
Yeah.
武汉加油，中国加油！我们在 Penn State，给武汉加油！
See you. Okay. Yeah, thank you. All right.
谢谢。That's
Yeah.
it. That's it for now.
Yeah, by the way, yeah, you keep in mind it's 4:30 in the morning there, y'all. It's 5 o'clock in the morning, so it's kind of cool. Really appreciate it. Thanks for coming. Yep. You can stay on if they want to stay on, but it's fine. Hey, so can we, I think what feels like it'd be really good for me right now is to take because of these, with the global dialogues, can I take some questions that you feel like if you could get these questions answered, you would be able to have a more effective or more interesting dialogue? What can you ask me about this? About Colombia, Afghanistan, Iraq, we're starting, we're there, we're in. Like, what can you ask me about what I just said? Y'all, look, you realize, so the Americans here for a second. No, hang on. I want to just ask just the Americans for a second, okay? Whatever you think about the United States, whatever it is, and mostly you probably don't think much because we grow up in this ether of like, yeah, the United States, we have flags and we stand for this and we stand for that, but most of us don't think about it very much because we don't. But what I just said here was that, well, actually, in your lifetimes of almost everybody in this room, we started a war to steal a resource from somebody else that resulted in the deaths of over 1 million people, including many Americans. Like, that's actually kind of a bold thing to say. And if you are sitting here, wait, hang on. Hang on. I'm going to go in the front for this. God.
Sam, there's actually questions on Twitter about the war being about terror versus oil.
All right,
If you wanna hit that.
I'll get to that in a second. That's a good thing. Listen, hang on. Hang on, everybody. Everyone, look at me. Think about what I said. Right now, I'm just talking to Americans. Think about what I just said. about the war. If you're not thinking, if you have never thought about this, if you have blood coursing through your veins and you have thoughts going through your mind, I have to imagine that you're thinking, holy shit, what? What is this guy saying? Like, what's he saying? So how is that? What are you thinking? What are you thinking about what I said? It's a really bold statement. You know, this isn't just like, oh yeah, America, like, yeah, okay, yeah, I always knew with it. No. Don't, that's a cheap way out. What are you thinking? It's like, what's it mean? Are you gonna go further? You're gonna question it? You're gonna say like, oh, I gotta go home and jump on Google and I gotta go read some books, read some articles. I gotta figure this out. I gotta like, what? Sam's a knucklehead. Like, I can't believe him. So I gotta go figure it out for myself. And you shouldn't believe me. You'll figure it out for yourself. But what are you thinking? Who's got a question? This is so big. Dude, if nothing else, the American troops, that Americans support our troops, like you should, right? These are people who are saying, we're going to take the oath to take the ultimate sacrifice and do whatever we're told to do because that's what we're going to do. And sometimes it's really for the good, and sometimes it turns out it's not necessarily for the good, but nonetheless, people die. It's like, so what are you thinking? Just out of curiosity, what are you thinking in relationship to what I said about this war and about Iraq? The government, if you're an American, the government, the place where you live, the government that you support and that supports you, what I'm saying is went to this country to steal somebody else's resource, and 1 million people in that country died and almost 5,000 of your own citizens. And can I tell you, by the way, what I'm saying has nothing to do with liberals or conservatives. The difference is, the very simple difference is this. A more politically conservative mindset says, hey, there's only so many resources in the world, and the strongest will survive. And so whoever can go get the oil should get the oil. And if the Chinese could have come here and gotten the coal, then the Chinese come and get the coal. It is what it is. And that's just the reality is. Some people are on top, some people are on the bottom, and we just accept survival of the fittest. In a more liberal perspective says, yeah, well, but you know what I mean, but there are good and bad and right and wrong, and it's not necessarily okay to do the good and the bad, or the bad. So who's got a question? Like, whose mind right now is going like, man, I don't know what to make of this. And what do you want? What are you asking yourself? What do you want to know? What do you want to ask me? Yes, ma'am.
Well, since America, I'm trying to think the proper word. Like, we respect our troops, like we have Veterans Day, Memorials Day, but it's funny how we're like exploiting and abusing them for financial gain.
Well, it would seem that. Why do you say that?
It's like, I already knew that, I talked about in high school how like the whole Afghanistan-Iraq war was just for us to use their oil and extract their oil from them, but it's kind of funny how like we care so much about the veterans, but that's what we do to them. Well,
There's a lot of people there are a lot of songs over the years that are written about this, right? It's rarely the children of the rich that go off to war. It's the children of the poor and the working class. And, I mean, there are a lot of stories about this. It's not always the case, but, there's a way in which, countries, it's not just the U.S., it's every country in the world. This is the thing. If you're one of these liberals who says, like, oh, yeah, well, this is just a problem in the United States, it's not a problem in the United States. It's not a problem of the Republicans or the Democrats. This is what countries do. Governments are responsible for their people. And so you're going to do good when you can do good, and when you've got to make happen when you want to make happen, and it's not good, then you often are just going to make it happen. It's nothing about the United States or someplace else.
But how does that not break international laws?
How does it not break international laws?
Yeah, like rules of conduct.
Well, because some countries can just decide on what those international laws are.
That's fair.
You know what I mean? Hey, by the way, so one of the ideas here is that, so Jeff, I'm going to respond to the tweet. So the idea is that in Iraq, one of the reasons we invaded Iraq was because of terrorism. There was no terrorism in Iraq. There was nothing happening in Iraq when we invaded Iraq. And in 2003, in the early 90s, there was no terrorism in Iraq because they had a dictator. And the dictator's name was Saddam Hussein, and he was controlling Iraqi society. But he was a dictator, but we still sent him weapons. We still supported him, including chemical weapons. So there was all sorts of things that we did. That didn't seem to be a problem, but there was no terrorism in Iraq. We invaded, and the terrorism started when we started making decisions and began killing people and all sorts of things. I don't have time to go into it, but has nothing to do with why we invaded Iraq. Because if someone is saying that it's about terrorism, they're confusing Iraq with Afghanistan. And one of the fundamental reasons we went into Afghanistan was to search for Osama bin Laden, who's the person we identified as the one who is the mastermind behind taking down the World Trade Center towers, the planes that flew into the towers in the Pentagon. He being the mastermind, and so he was living in Afghanistan, being sheltered there, and so we went after him. That's where the terrorism comes in, but there's no terrorism in Iraq. Has nothing to do with why we invaded. Who else has a question? Who's got a question? Yes. Wait, while I'm over here, does anyone have a question over here so I don't have to walk so far? Anybody? Dude.
Yeah, there's one on Twitter if you want to take that in the
Go ahead.
meantime. It's pretty much asking about money that we, quote unquote, could have made during this war.
Yeah. Dude, the Iraq War was in fact about how much did we make? Yeah, listen, the idea is that it turns out because of all the destruction and moving elsewhere, we didn't make much money off the oil at all. Because what happened was, dude, is this you? Because what we made money on was the military-industrial complex here that's selling weapons for the war, who is largely behind the decision to go to war. Yeah, bro.
Yeah, so that kind of touched on my question as far as why the U.S. hasn't been able to extract the oil that we went in there for, and essentially why have other organizations, other terrorist organizations now getting rich off of that oil that we were supposed to go in there for?
So there are two things, right? One is that by and large, the Saudis and other oil-producing countries just increased their production. As the production in Iraq went down, these other Kuwait, the Saudis, the Qataris, they just increased the production. Canada, U.S., Mexico, Venezuela, and so we didn't need the Iraqi oil. And so as the oil, we're trying to rebuild the infrastructure, and in the end, we don't rebuild it for ourselves anyway. There's a term that we use in English. If you're not American, the term is clusterfuck. And that's kind of what we're after here.
I was just wondering kind of how a lot of us, myself included in the room, went through high school, middle school without knowing the true reason why we went into Iraq. Because I never learned that we went into Iraq for oil. I kind of always thought it was a terrorist kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I was kind of wondering that.
Well, the reason, I suppose, is the same reason that I used that 10-year-old photo of Chinese women that Frost was hammering me about. Why? Because first off, I went into an old folder and pulled up the same PowerPoint slides that I used in my TED Talk 10 years ago, and I didn't have time to update the photos. So you didn't have time to do the research that you could have done. That could have taken you 30 minutes. You could have watched my TED Talk and you would have been further ahead. It's 18 minutes long. The reason is the same reason. I didn't have time to do that. There are myriad things I don't know anything about, and I will never know anything about just because I don't have time and you don't have time. And no one pulled you aside and said, hey, why don't you explore this? And you had no reason to. Why would you have reason to? And then you also don't want to explore something to learn something that is really uncomfortable.
Yeah, I guess like...
Wait. Yo, hang on. We have 3 minutes, my friends.
Like, why isn't that part of like history classes and things like that?
Yeah, so unless you have a truly conservative teacher who truly believes in conservative ideology, who would teach you what happened in Iraq, because it's anti-conservative to invade another country. It goes against all principles of conservatism. Or unless you had a really liberal teacher who believed it was wrong because it went through the principles that they stood for, you would have your teachers are busy thinking about other things. And so it's like, okay. And this is life. There are so many things you could learn about, and we don't, that I could learn about. Anybody else have a question? Dude, do you have a question? Bro. All right. Okay, hang on. We have, wait. Is this about Iraq? About America? Go ahead.
Okay.
Yo, listen up.
Just one more
Question.
I want to ask, have you guys ever thought about why America like to start wars so much, either invading other countries or like trade deal with China or Canada, Mexico? Have you guys think about that? Just for example, do you like robbing others' money and even fight them personally?
Dude,
and related it back to a country.
This is really good for one of the hang on, yo, listen up. I have such a cool thing that I want to say. Listen to this. I don't say many cool things. Dude, that's a cool question for a group. Here's another one. And then ask an American to ask Chinese students, how often do you all think about the Uyghurs? Right? How often are you thinking about the Uyghurs? We say in English, we say Uyghurs, but it could be Uyghurs. How many, do you know who that is? Do you know who it is? Do you know who it is? Do you have any idea? All right.
If you're Christian, you just let yourself down if you don't know who those people are.
Yeah. Okay, so listen, man. The reason, just enjoy the groups and the dialogues and the conversations. And remember, my job is just to get you to think about different things.